Okay, so this is our aging analysis heat map. That is telling us the distribution of our default loans across the days in defaults. So over here, we have our drop down to allow us to select across sectors for every loan. Okay, and basically it's telling us for the loans in default for manufacturing, this is how the loans or loans in default are distributed. So this represents the days of defaults, and you can realize or you can tell from the heat map that most of the loans are in the 80 to 130 days period concentration. Okay, when you switch this up to financial sector, you have a different layout in terms of the days, and then it also tells you where the loans in default are concentrated. Okay, so this visually allows you to determine which loans or which sector are having loans that are aging very quickly, or how much attention you should pay to addressing those loans. Okay, so over here you have a little key that tells you what the chart is all about. So those that are blank are those that do not have any loans in default for that period. Okay, those that are plain or pink have very little loans, about 1 or 2, and those that are red are the ones that have the highest number of loans in default within that period. Okay, so this is a very simple chart. It's quite different. It's much more intuitive than our normal default bar chart and column charts. So I'm going to take you through the process of building these charts, but let's first appreciate how I got this done. So first, this is our data. So we have a loan schedule. Over here, we have the dates. We have the name of the individuals with the loans, their job title, probably where they work, department, the industry they belong to, which is what we use to classify them. Then we have the loan repayment dates. We have the loan amount. This is the loan amount, how much they've paid so far, what's outstanding, and then we have the number of days in default. Right, there's a number of days in default for the loan. So with this in place, then you're able to create a simple chart with that information. The calculation we needed for this mainly was a drop-down list, a unique list for the drop-down, then the minimum range period and the maximum range period. So where it starts from, where it ends, and then the number of rows you need for the range. This is very important. Okay, so over here you have the layout over there. This is just a card, okay, which is connected to this list of days, right? Now the reason why we needed this card is because this one is just a label, okay, but the main engine is the counting function that runs behind this. So we have a counting function which is counting how many times the sum of this and that, which is 40, can be found in days in default. Okay, so if I unhide, so currently the actual resource is hidden. So if I do a control 1, okay, and I come to custom, so this code is hiding my figures or results over there. So if I take it off, you see these are the results for the count if. So over here you have 11 times 77, which is 7 plus 70 plus 7, okay, can be found days in default for education. But then these are not intuitive, so I need a label that will represent each day. You get the picture. That is why I needed to hide that and then place this over here. So all this comes together to build a much more intuitive, much more custom, and much more appealing charts for your use. So if you're ready, let's get started. This is our data we're going to be using. The first thing we're going to do is to convert this, which is a range of cells with data, into a table in Excel. Okay, so standing here, I'm going to do a Control T. Okay, yes, my table has headers. I'm going to click OK. And now we have a table in Excel. Okay, I'm going to name this. So I'm going to come here and name this as loans. Okay, so now that I have loans, I have my dates, I have all the necessary information I have. What I need to calculate is the number of days in default. So days in default. Okay, so days in default is going to be the difference between the loan repayment date and today, right? How many days has elapsed since the last day, the day they were supposed to make a payment? Okay, so it's equal to F. This happens to be greater than 0. Outstanding amount happens to be greater than 0. I want today's date. So today minus her loan repayment date. Is that okay? Other than that, I want what? 0. Enter. Now to keep for instances where our loan repayment date, okay, is greater than today's date. So that means it's not due to be repaid, or the last date for repayment is not due yet. So to care for that, I'm going to do a max, okay, of this and 0. Because if our loan repayment date happens to be greater than today, we're going to get a negative amount. So this is just going to be there to ensure that I don't get a negative. Okay, so once I have this in place, I'm currently having the days. This is currently showing decimals, which is wrong. So I'm going to change this to general format. So Control Shift tilde to give me general format for this. Fantastic. So currently I have this in place, which is my first step. The next thing I need to do is to calculate for the various backend information. So I'm going to create a new sheet. So I'm going to call this backend for my backend calculations. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some space over here for my labels and start from M. Okay, now I'm going to generate the unique list of industries in my table. So loans, open square bracket, industry, close the function and enter. And this gives me the unique list of industries in my table. Okay, now with this, I'll need to create a drop down list or a drop down data validation from this list. So over here, I'm going to data, I'm going to data validation, and then I'm going to change this to list, and then my source is going to be my unique list of industries. Okay, once I've done that, click on OK, and then I can select from this unique list. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is going to calculate the maximum, minimum number of default days for the particular sector selected. So I'm going to need a function max ifs. So max ifs. Okay, my max range is going to be from the loans table, that's days in default. Okay, criteria range is going to be from the same table, this time the industry, and then this is my criteria. Okay, and I'm going to do same for min ifs. Okay, so min ifs, my min range is same as the other, that's the days in default. Okay, I'm going to select industry as my criteria range, and my criteria is going to be hospitality again. So this is the maximum, this is the minimum. So you realize for the main, I'm getting 0 because 0 is obviously the minimum amount. But then I want to ensure that I'm going to be getting the minimum amount that's actually default, not 0. So I need to bring another criteria. Okay, so I'm going to say where loans in default, or where outstanding. So loans in square bracket outstanding amount. Okay, is greater than 0. This is to ensure that I don't pick 0 as a minimum amount for the particular industry, where I pick the minimum number of days in default other than 0. So I have this, then I have 14 as the minimum number of days. So when I switch this up to education, it's going to give me the minimum 42 and a maximum of 133. Now what I actually want isn't the exact day, but then the run to the lowest tens of that day. So for this one, I want 130, and for this, I want 40. So then I need to adjust this formula a bit. I'm going to divide this by 10. That gives me this 13.3. Okay. And I'm going to round this down to no decimal place. That will give me 13. Then I multiply it back by 10. That gives me 130. We'll do the same thing for this. So divide this by 10. Gives me 4.2. I'm going to round this up, round this down to 4. So 0, 4, no decimal place. And then I'm going to multiply this back by 10. And I get 40. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the number of rows or lines I need in between these two. So number of rows I need between these two, which is going to be very useful, be equal to this minus that, which gives me 90. Okay, that's the difference, but I need to divide this by 10. Okay, because I want a number of rows. So divided by 10 gives me 9. Great. Then I can add 1 to this. Gives me 10. Fantastic. Okay, so I have 10 rows for this. I have my list of industries, and I have my drop-down list. So when I change this to manufacturing, okay, it tells me the maximum is 160, minimum is 70, and the number of rows are also 10. Financial sector, basically all of them are 10. Okay, so with this, I can effectively start my visual. So I'm going to come back to data. Okay, now what I need to do is to create the area I need for my mapping. So I need about 10 rows. I'm going to select the columns, then I'm going to change the column width to 5. So Alt H O W. So let me do this again. So I need about 10 columns. So Alt H O W. I'm going to reduce the column width to 5. So something like this. Okay, good. Then I'm going to use a function sequence. Okay, this time I'm doing for columns. So comma columns. I want, how many columns do I need? I need 10 columns. Okay, I'm starting from 0. And then the step is by default 1. So I'm going to close this. So I'm going to get 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 9. Do you see that? Good. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be equal to sequence. Okay, so how many rows do I want to spill into? So coming to back end, this is the number of rows I want to spill into. I do not have a column. I'm not doing for columns, just rows. Now start number is 40, and then my step is 10. So one step every 10. Good. So this is 14, 15, all the way to 130, which is the maximum. So I have this in place. That's fantastic. Now, what I want to do is I want to create my labels. So over here, I want to get 40, 41, 42, 43, which is, so it's going to be basically a sum of this, right? Which is a dynamic array plus sum of that. Choose a dynamic array to hit. I have 40, 41, 42, 43. Okay, so these represent each day in the days and period range for the particular industry we're looking at. So it starts from 40 and ends at 39, 139. Okay, so all the loans are going to fall, that are going to fall within this aging bracket. Okay, however, these are not the values that we're going to use for the heat map. Okay, we're going to actually use the count of these values for the heat map. So these values are not going to sit over here. They're going to sit in the back end, right? So I'm going to take these guys off and then redo the same calculation in the back end. So in the back end at A1, that's where we left the space. I'll come here, select this plus that. Okay, these are dynamic arrays. So when I hit this, I have the exact same spill over here. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this range. Copy, come here, select this block. So Control A, Control Alt V, and I'm copying the column width. So I have the exact same column width over there. So something like this. Right, fantastic. So now that I have this in place, I can now do a count ifs. So equal to count, can use count if or count ifs, but let's use count ifs. Okay, so I'm going to select my criteria range 1. So loans, open brackets, this in default. Okay, and then I'm going to select criteria, which is going to be this plus that, and I have this. Okay, so they're going to tell me how many loans are in default for each day in our range we're looking at. Now, let me draw you to attention that this class is just for a particular industry. So we need to bring that industry here and also include it in our calculation. So I'm going to include about 2 columns. Okay, reduce this. Okay, then I'm going to bring my industry somewhere here. So I'll come to back end. I'm going to cut this guy, Control X, come to data, paste him here, Control V. Great. So in my formula, I'm going to adjust my formula and say, okay, the second criteria is to check in loans industry and give me all those that are in relation to this. So enter. And this is just for the financial sector. So if I switch this to, okay, so there's a little problem over here because we cut our data validation to this side. There's no more reference in the other sheet, so we can quickly change that. So use the shortcut Alt DL. Okay, come to source and click this and go back and select the actual source. Okay, so click OK. Then we have this. So now we have our data validation working, and as we switch it up, you see that the list of days also changes, and then it gives us the counting of that. Okay, so we are almost there. Now what we need to do is we're going to hide these values, okay, so that they don't show. We don't want them to show. We're going to place the labels over there, but then we're going to hide them. And before we hide them, we first need to do the conditional formatting. Okay, so whilst these values are selected, we come to home, conditional formats, color scales. Now you can select any of these color scales that fits what your purpose is, but for me, I'm going to more loose because I want a specific color pattern. Come to maximum, which is going to be a very dark shade of red, and the minimum is going to be this pink, this shade of pink. Okay, I'm going to click OK. Then I have something like this. So this is currently my heat map, but I do not want the zeros to also be colored. Okay, so I'm going to also go to home again, conditional formatting. Okay, new room, and I'm going to say use a formula in this instance. The formula is going to be simple. It's going to be equal to this cell. Okay, I'm going to take off the dollar sign with function F4. So function F4, F4, F4. Okay, is equal to 0. The format is simple. I don't want the fill to be anything, so fill. I'm going to say no color. I'm going to click OK, and then OK. Right, then I have something like this. So the days that do not have any days in default or do not have any loans in default, okay, should not have any fill. It should start from 1. So currently this is showing you the heat map and then the number of loans for each day in default. Okay, but then this is not really intuitive. It's very hard for the user to understand which day each category or each block belongs to. So we're going to hide this. So Control 1, come to custom. Okay, and then in place of general over here, we're going to clear this general and then replace this with 3 semicolons. So 1, 2, 3. Telling Excel that this cell should not show its value. So I'm going to click OK. And then just like that, the values disappear. So currently, we do not see any value over there because it has been formatted to not show the value. But the values are there, and then when we select the industry, Excel is going to map out what each block stands for. Then it's going to use a conditional formatting to highlight it. Okay, but we need to still see what each block stands for. So come to the back end, and this is why we need this, and this is why this is very important. We're going to select this range, copy this, come to data, select this cell, and in home, under paste, we're going to paste as a linked picture. Okay, so then we have something like this, right? We're still not there yet, but we're very close. So we have something like this. Now when I select this, because it's a linked picture and I change, okay, the values are going to change in that sheet and it's going to appear over here. Now we need to take certain things off. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the background over here. We're going to reduce the size of these values. So Alt W engine to take off background. Okay, then I'm going to reduce the size of these values. Let me just increase this so that in case new data comes in. Okay, so I'm going to select this and I'm going to come to home. Okay, I'm going to reduce the size of this to 8, which is fine. Then I'm going to align center and then up, something like this. Okay, so that's it. So when you come here, you have something like this, right? Very neat over here. Good. I can take off the background over here, so Alt W engine as well to take off the background over here. Then I have something like this. I'm going to bold this range, so Control B, and then this as well, so Control B, right? And then center this, so Alt HAC. Okay, same goes for this one, Alt HAC, Alt HAC. Okay, probably a borderline, Alt HBO to have this as a borderline, and then I can do the same for here, Alt HB R. Okay, so then we have something close to what we are looking out for. So with this, now when I change my sector, okay, it's going to respond as well and give me a visual of where the concentration is. Okay, so you can end over here. Okay, but if you want to make it super dynamic like I am interested in, then we're going to go a step further to make this very dynamic. But first, let's bring our header. So aging analysis of loans in default. Okay, enter. Okay, I'm going to bring a borderline here. So Alt HBO, and then align center. So Control 1, come to align, and then I don't prefer to merge. I prefer to align across selection. So something like this. So aging analysis of this. Also fill this with a light shade of gray. Okay, and then you have it. So you have something like this over there. Now, I was talking about making this much more dynamic. Now, this is why I was talking about making this more dynamic. So you see currently hospitality ends 100, right? So what if we have hospitality going beyond this value? So hospitality, let's say we had an outstanding amount of 100 over here, right? And then, yes, this gives us 111 days. Okay, so currently you see that we have 111 days over here expanding correctly. But then the issue here is our card over here does not include, okay, this period. So when you come to the back end, you notice that the 110 has increased, but then because our card, when you take the card, you see that the range is fixed to J10. Okay, it does not include the subsequent period. So what we need to do is we need to come up with a dynamic way to ensure that when this range expands, the card also expands to pick up the range. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, come to back end. If I paste this here, this is the formula that is running our card. When you activate the formula, you realize that it ends up to this point, which is from A1 to D10. Okay, but I want it to be dynamic so that in case the array increases, this also increases as well. So how do we do that? You can use the indirect function. So over here, I'm going to introduce indirect. Okay, and I'm going to make this point a text. So from back end all the way to the $sign after the J, bring my ampersand, and instead of 10, which is hard-coded, I'm going to select my row number over here. But then I have to make sure that this reference is locked absolutely. So I put that way. Okay. So with that in place, I'm going to close this and then enter. Right? Great. So with this now done, I can now copy this and save this as a formula in my name manager. Okay, so I could a new, I'm going to call this display area. And then I'm going to introduce my formula over here. So I'll delete this, then my formula there, and okay. So that's display area, then close. So now I do equal to display area, tab, enter. I have this. Right? Great. So let's come back to our data. Select our reference over here. From this, to display area. Enter. And we have that. Right? Great. So what this means is that now as our data expands and retracts, our card also expands and retracts. Now, how do we resolve this part of the data that's showing? Well, that's simple. All we need to do is just copy this aspect of our format down. So I'm just going to highlight that part and then a sizable area, then Control D. And that should solve that. Okay. And we are done. So now when I switch this financial sector, okay, you notice the card expands appropriately, totality increases, and then everything is captured. Okay, so last thing before we go, I'm going to bring my key. So this is going to be key, right? Then I have 3 boxes, so Alt HBA. I'm going to home, and then home format for the red. Yeah. Okay, then I'll provide a label. So these days have no loans in default. Loans in default. Okay, and I'll do the same for this and for that. So this is how you create a heat map for your loan analysis that dynamically changes as you select the various sectors or whatever classification you've used in classifying your loans in your data set. I hope you learned a lot and I hope you're able to create this for me. Thank you for joining me for this session and hope to see you in a subsequent one.
If this video was helpful and you would like to receive more of these videos directly on your WhatsApp, you can send ad to this WhatsApp number. We'll add you to our broadcast list so you receive our videos directly. You can also visit our YouTube channel, Finance Skills Hub. All our old videos are here. Please subscribe for notification of new videos or connect with us on any of these social media handles. Thank you so much for watching.